Welcome back. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you already aren't, and drop a like and comment down below. Hit that bell. Let's get right into it. So, a lot of people are saying it was at the Dice game and it was at the concert, but Lil Boosie and Duke, they went to other places than just the Dice game and just the concert. People didn't sleep at the Dice game and then get ready and go straight to the concert. No, the Dice game was just a few hours. And after the Dice game, some people went to Waffle House. A lot of other people, they were hanging out. Some people went to the store, everything like that, to grab the backwoods. But when you really sit down and think about what exactly happened that whole entire weekend, it was the Dice. Before the Dice game, they even went out to a restaurant to eat. And it's like it was somebody who was already recording and watching Duke at the restaurant. Like, you guys got to understand that before the Dice game, it was a whole other events that happened, and people were still watching Duke the whole time from the beginning. As soon as he pulled up and shook Boosie's hand, everything that they did that day, people were watching. And even before the concert, when they met up to take shots, the pregame to pick up the bottles, and they had to collaborate like who's going where. They all met up before they all left to the concert. So it was like multiple different places where a lot of people could have seen Duke. And when you think about it, they made him bring the jewelry. They made him bring it because he wouldn't have brought that much normally. Like, he would have probably just brought like one chain to show Boosie, a couple watches and whatever for himself. But he would have probably brought the smaller Louis bag and not two of the big luggage suitcases. And so, because they wanted him to bring that money for the Dice game, they wanted him to bring the diamonds and the VVS's, and say that it was, somebody was going to look at the chains and maybe buy one. And, Duke was already thinking hey, just in case they might like these chains, then he's going to bring more. So they convinced him. However they convinced him, they got him to bring everything and stuff like that. And so at the restaurant, when they were eating the rice and the steak, it was people watching. You could look, everybody sitting at the table next to him, those guys had no chains on, nothing really. They were just wearing ones, and they just kept looking over, and just worried about what the next man is doing so much that they almost spilt all their food trying to break their neck looking at what Duke had on and what, because they were waiting for the check to come. And when the check came, Duke went to go pay for his. That's when they knew he had all the cash on him. It's because when Duke went to pay for his tab, they brought the ticket. And Boosie was trying to pay it. Plies was trying to pay it. And Duke was like, no, I got it. You know how it's when big bosses and big dogs are at a dinner table and the check comes and everybody want to pay the check. And then, somebody's like, all right, you got it. So Boosie was like, all right, Duke, you got it. You could cover this one. And so that's when Duke pulled out some of his money. It was literally a bankroll of all hundreds. And so that's when the dudes at the table next to him, which were the Wolves, they started getting super jealous, super licking their chops like they just got a dessert with their dinner meal. And so that's when everything started to become a red flag. Things started to go south from there, because as soon as they realized that if there's somebody else who's paying for Boosie and his team's meal, then that person definitely got money. And by the way that Boosie was acting around him, and by the way that the whole team wasn't letting him come with their security, it was a clue to the Wolves that he's really not with them. And so if Boosie don't want Duke to be protected by his security, then he might not care as much as we thought about Duke. And so that just let the Wolves know that it's a green-lighted person, because Boosie not even messing with them. Yeah, he's around them. He's letting him pay for the meal at the dinner table. But then again, he's not protecting them with the security on their way out. He's making them walk to his own car far away in the parking lot. And so those are the things that start to make the people wonder, what's really going on here? Because it's like, how could you take the man's money, but then, he's being generous, but then you turn around and it's every man for themselves outside, even though he's your guest and it's your city. Like, y'all got to understand that from wherever they went, from Baton Rouge, driving all the way down to Houston, everybody with the whole entourage came with them. And so it's like, hey, if Jay Prince was with him and his Boosie and Plies and everybody like that, Duke the jeweler should have been the fourth VIP member. And that's why it's like they should have had been, moving all together like that. But they singled it and separated him out because they basically didn't want him to be bigger than him. Like Boosie and them and all of them, they don't want to see people be bigger than them. They want to be the only rich guy. And so that's why there's a lot of greed, jealousy that plays a part in all of these things, man. Everything could be cool 1 minute with Duke and Boosie, and then next thing you know, it's like everything crumbled down and people start acting like, oh, they don't even know him and this and that. And so that's what's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, because they've been saying that Duke and Boosie knew each other and that Boosie's been following Duke since 2016. So if you really add up all those years, that's 6 years. So Boosie known this man for 6 whole years and knew him enough to invite him to a whole concert, restaurant, dice game, everything, right? But then after he gets hit up and, a couple of days later, once the news breaks out and everything, he's talking about, nah, yeah, we just met him last night, the night before. So it just don't make no sense. And he's trying to basically sway off of what the real situation is that he actually knew the man for years. And so if you know somebody for 6 years, you can't just turn around and act like you never met them before. Maybe you could do that with somebody you just knew for a couple months because it wasn't long enough to actually have a solid, a solid connection like that. But then if you know somebody for 6 whole entire years, I'm talking like over half a decade, almost a whole decade. And it's like, everything about them, their mamas and the people and all of their business, right? And then you invite them out, and then next thing you know, when they ask you about the person, you act like you don't even know him and that he just met him the night before. So that's the thing that's weird, because it's all over social media where you could see, retweets. You could see stuff from Boosie and Duke way back in the day. Like somebody already found out that Boosie actually was following Duke since 2016. And so with that, then it's like, where did the mill come from? Like, where did he, they wanted to get his jewelry money basically, because Boosie probably has some debt to be paid off with. Either he had debt to pay because of something him and Duke got into, or maybe after Duke got hit up, they found out Boosie could have allegedly been connected and they told him that he need to up the mill to keep everything from going overboard. So if you look at it, it could be ransom money. It could be something from some other situation that they got themselves into. Either way, it's very weird for Boosie to be selling all of his cars when he's supposed to have all his money already. And so that's the thing. It's like, he just bought and did all that work to that mansion, the Boosie Estates. And so you telling me that he didn't have any more bread left over, that he had to sell his cars and all of his whole collection? Because that's strange, man. Because who liquidates everything that fast? The only person who sells stuff, all their stuff that fast is if they know they about to go somewhere and sit down for a time, or if they're moving, or if they literally are downsizing their entire life. Like maybe they had a bunch of kids with them in their house. Like they had a house full of kids and now the kids grew up and moved to college. Okay, yeah, then those people are going to sell everything and downsize to a smaller place, right? But in Boosie's case, it's the opposite. It's the fact that he's got a lot of people around him and all this stuff. So it's like, it really seems like he could use all those cars. He could have all of his posse driving them cars like they Ubers or rental cars and rent them on Turo. And literally, they could make 25K a day. They could make 20K a day doing that with how exotic cars he has. They could do photo shoots for music videos. He could have ran up a mill, but it wouldn't have been 48 hours, but it could have been like, give him 2 weeks or something like that, right? And so he could have ran up the mill the smart way. Like, he could have literally bought an investment property, Airbnb'd it out, and got his money back, and just made it to where he's not just selling everything at once. Like, he could have used what he already got to generate more money. Like, he could have used all of his assets that he already owned to basically make him a passive income monthly. And that could have went and paid for whatever he needed in installments. But see, it wasn't no business transaction. They didn't allow him to make it in payments. They told him that he has to get $1 million in 48 hours. So it was something serious. And so that's why a lot of people are looking at him and they're like, I don't know about this guy. It seems a little bit fishy. And it's still a lot of condolences to go out to Duke and his whole family, man. So let that be recognized, and make sure you stay tuned to the channel because there's going to be a lot more updates coming up. So make sure you subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment down below. I'm going to catch you on the next one.